Inilah dia PSR S seri 670. Baik, kita coba untuk menghidupkan. Baik, kita coba untuk hidupkan. Ini tombol on-nya. Ya, itulah dia PSR S670.
Hello, here is BB Walker. Welcome to my channel again on the Saturday video. Today, as I promised, I bring my computer, and today we will be making great things with FL Studio version 20. So, give me a moment and we will start soon. Alright, so first things first, USB cable. Standard USB port comes to Yamaha PSR-S670 USB-B socket on this 2-host socket on the rear panel. This output goes to my Behringer to have a speakers for you, so you will be able to listen what's going on from here. And of course, we will be trying to record MIDI, use Yamaha as a keyboard, as a MIDI input device, so a lot of interesting things. So let's stay tuned and we start configuring computer. Alright, so I will start from the very basic about the FL Studio version 20. There's a lower version, previous version, however the basic principles are all the same. This is a demo version, so you can download it for free from this producer's site. And if you start the project with basic, with limiter, you will see something like this. So this is this channel rack, this is the playlist, piano roll is in here, you can call it or not call it, disable, enable the windows. I don't want to make here a complete tutorial about FL Studio. If you have any questions, just refer to my channel, or if you want such a tutorial, just give me a comment and I will create it, of course. So, configuration of the MIDI. If you have attached the MIDI this using the socket, which I have shown you a moment before, you go to options and MIDI settings, and in the MIDI settings you will find that there is a digital keyboard and MIDI out. So Yamaha is discovered as 2 output devices and 1 input device. So today we will try to use it as a MIDI keyboard. So the same principle, because one of you have asked me how to do the same thing like I have done on Cubase 2.8. If you are interested how to do this in Cubase and making a chord progression loop and then use it to, you know, practice with Yamaha. So without looper or any other external devices, only this computer. So if you want to use a keyboard as a digital keyboard, so as an input, you select input and check this, enable, which means that this will be listening the MIDI note. So if I press, you can hear now the grand piano. This grand piano comes from the Yamaha itself, and this kick is sent into channel number 1 in its kick, because I have selected this channel. This is by the default selected channel. I will go up with volume a little bit. As you can hear, there is a little bit delay between the receiving and send, and you will see in a moment that latency, it could be an issue here. However, we could quantize features, so we could fix it very, very fast. Okay, so to have a MIDI listen, so to have a MIDI enabled as listening, so you are pressing keys on the keyboard and then send into computer, you have to select this input and enable. To have the output enabled, so to sending back notes to the instrument, you have to select the digital keyboard. MIDI out 2 is also the second device discovered by the Yamaha. However, we use this digital keyboard. This is nothing more than our device. Of course, standard MIDI mapper and wavetable synths are software mappers, a software MIDI output used by the Windows computer. If your device is not discovered, you could press refresh devices, and any found devices could be found here. I have also selected Send Sync Master. It's not super important at this time, however, we could leave it for a moment. Okay, so this is all if we talk about the configuration. So USB cable to Yamaha, it's a bidirectional MIDI output and input in one USB cable. The other standard ports, 5D sockets, are, you know, something else. If you want to use it with a computer, you need to have this, you know, converter but we are using here on USB MIDI. So this is all if we talk about cabling and setting up the software. And now what's going on in a standard situation? As I said, if you have a kick or clap or any other instrument on this channel rack in our pattern, it's completely empty project, and you are pressing the key on the Yamaha, it plays the grand piano and also it sends a note here. If you want to disable this, disturbing stuff, you could do two things. First, if you have a mixer like I have in here, you could, cut the volume on the mixer. However, the simplest way is to get the volume of the Yamaha and go to 0. If you go to 0, you will be only hearing the output from the computer itself. So it receives MIDI and plays on the standard selected channel. So I selected clap, it plays clap. I selected hi-hat, it plays hi-hat, and so on. Middle C is something here. So of course nobody uses a MIDI keyboard to create drums. To create drums you just want to use this sequencer and put some kicks in here. Maybe not such aggressive. Sorry, I don't have a mouse in here, so I use this pad. And so this is a standard 130 projects. You will see in here, sorry for the camera, you will see here that we have the tempo 130. I propose to change to 100 BPM, so pressing the button, right button on the mouse and changing. Metronome is enabled. As always, for recording, I like to have metronome. Pre-counting, I also recommend you to have enabled. And the instrument. Actually, now we have on the standard super basic, and we don't have any melodic instrument, so I propose you to add something. And let's do any, because I don't want to listen the sound from Yamaha. I only want to have the samples from here, so I will choose maybe some synthetic sound like the citrus. This is some kind of, very popular for electronic music. And what we now do, I would like to record some sample, the chord progression, so a few chords on a few bars. And the basic problem at the beginning is that in a Cubase you are recording the pattern that then you want to copy and use it. In FL Studio you have this pattern, and the pattern length is crucial for recording. So now we have a pattern length that consists of 4 bars. You will see in here. So if I play it, 1 bar, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, down, down. So I need something like this. I would like to make some chord progression like this. Sorry, I need to change to something. For example, C, G, F, or maybe C, G, something like this. So we want to record it and then play with it, sending out or in. So what I will do now, first things, I need to extend the pattern. The standard pattern is this 4 bars, and it's not enough for me because this recording works in loop. So you need to do a trick, whatever it's called. You go here, this is called the pattern length. The solution is here, pattern length. So this option presented here is called the pattern length. You are pressing the right mouse button and set to 4 bars. 4 bars should be okay. If you are not sure how many bars you need, I recommend you set more, and then you will shrink the bars. It's something similar to the working with Style Creator. Please check the video about Style Creator when I'm using the same thing. So I extend the bars the pattern length to 4 bars, and as you can see now there's 4 bars, first bar, second, third, and here are the kicks. And of course at the beginning it was only 4 kicks. No, so now I could feel it for, you know, of course I have a metronome, but also I could have these kicks to see if we are recording in rhythm. So we got these kicks, and then we will record the citrus using, as you can see in here, I will zoom out. If you have the citrus enabled, all the stuff that I'm pressing on the computer is also showing on the keyboard, is showing here. Maybe it's not seen. I've tried to make this, you know, to see the physical computer. So everything I press here goes here. Okay, so now we will be recording, and to record you need to set the following things. As I said, metronome will be good, pre-counting, you know, to start in a proper way. Tempo, I recommend 100 if you know, have some faster mode, you know, any other style that requires higher BPMs. Don't worry, you could, you know, increase it later, but it will be, you know, easier to record. And you select this, it's called the record. Sometimes if you press it at the first time, it will ask you what do you want to record, and you are selecting notes and automation. You don't need to record everything. Basically, you don't record audio or the clips because we are recording MIDI. So we are recording the signal, the note on, note off, so which note, how long, which tone has been pressed and which volume. We have a dynamic keyboard from Yamaha, so we will be able to see that there's some dynamics. So this is all if you want to start recording. And we are ready to record 4-bar sections, so let's try it. If I make a mistake, then I will try again. So if you have selected this record button, you are just playing play. And the very important thing, you have to be in a pattern mode, so the pattern in here should be enabled. Okay, so let's try do something. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we have our loop. As you can hear, there is a latency problem. I mean, I hear the beat, I hit the metronome, I hit the keyboard, but it plays not exactly in the rhythm. It is probably because of the drivers, because of the latency problems. And if you go to Citrus and go to piano roll, you will see that our notes are, you know, too late. They are actually too late because, you know, you could add it in here, and probably if we use ASIO drivers, we could be able to quantize to have this latency problem lower. However, I would like to show you the concept of this. So now I will move this, and let's listen it again. This pattern. Disable record, play. Now a little bit better, I think. Okay, so this is why I have, you know, I said it many times that I don't like using computers very much because of these latency problems. Sometimes they occur, sometimes not. However, let's forget about latency. Let's assume that it's recorded okay. I have, you know, quantized it, fixed. Here you can see the volumes. So everything is recorded. We get nice pattern. We now could solo, so we could disable listening the MIDI, enable the or just stay in the environment of FL Studio, add another instrument, maybe another citrus, and let's change to some other presets. There are a lot of presets. Some kind of like this, and we still could record. And so on and so on. So basically now we are in the environment of FL Studio. We only use a Yamaha as a, you know, as a MIDI keyboard. So all the stuff in the Yamaha, all the synthesizers in the Yamaha is forgotten, because we have set volume to 0. We are only receiving MIDI notes from the keyboard, so it's nice to working with a computer. But the main topic of the video is how to use it as a looper. I mean, how to send again the notes to the Yamaha. And now I will show you the very interesting thing in FL Studio is much more intuitive in FL Studio than in Cubase, because you can take in a channel rack, you can take any instrument and convert it into any other instrument. I mean, from the samples to FST instrument, and so on and so on. It's a great, because all the data, MIDI data, and this note on, note off, where to press it, are preserved, that they do not disappear. So now we can do a great features. I mean, I would like to put all this track, this chord, this loop, back to Yamaha to play as a MIDI. The same situation we have done in the movie about Cubase. So in here, to do this, you are pressing left mouse, right button mouse, and replace, and we will replace this track into where is it? Where are you? Where are you? MIDI out, in here, MIDI out. So it won't be sent to mixer, I mean the internal mixer of FL Studio, because it's a software mixer. There's a big mixer with, you know, a lot of channels and so on. And now we send back these notes to Yamaha. And what's going on up there? If you have this MIDI out, it's a very similar dialog window like in the Cubase. You are selecting where you want to send it. I mean, which channel, because as I said, MIDI has a lot of channels, 16 for example. In this Yamaha it's 16 channels, and the instruments that working in MIDI standard send some events, some notes, because notes are other events like volume and enable, disable something. There should be also commands to enable the instrument and so on. And the foot controllers work in MIDI standard. So basically we are sending those chords that we have recorded and listened using Citrus, we are recording, go back to Yamaha into channel number 1. And what's going on if now I play? I will disable these kicks for a moment. Now I have turned the volume down in the Yamaha to 0. So if I play, there will be only metronome. I will disable metronome, but the notes are being sent. And now I will go to Yamaha, and we will see what's going on if I go with volume to up. As you can see now, the Yamaha is playing, and it's playing on the channel number 1. Some notes from recorded device are sent back to Yamaha, and now actually we have this, what we want to have. The notes are going back because I have enabled the listening, but I could go to MIDI, to options MIDI, and for a moment I will disable the input. So I'm only sending output from computer, from FL Studio to Yamaha, and I am making a solo. But our goal has been reached. we have a loop using MIDI. And you may be asking how to change the voice that I'm playing, because now it's grand piano. It doesn't matter, as I said in MIDI, it doesn't matter which sound you record. MIDI out, it's only information about notes. So they go in here, and this device decides how it will be played. And if you take a look at the mixing console, which you can achieve, again, mixer, and this is mixing console, song parts, and this channel here is the channel that this device is sending. So FL Studio sends MIDI notes here, and they are played by the channel number 1. And if you don't like this grand piano, we could change it to something other. Maybe some synthetic sound. Oh my goodness. So now you understand the basic concept of this. I mean, the same thing that we have done in Cubase, now we have done in FL Studio. And of course we can continue this topic. I could show you how to make this pattern set on the playlist, because, for example, here in FL Studio, I was using FL Studio many years ago, where the version number 2 or 3 was on the market. And FL Studio actually was, in a historical, dates, it was the sequencer, mostly for making beats, like hip-hop. There's big makers use it a lot, because they have this looping. I mean, they start actually as a looper software, and then they added the modern stuff like this playlist, so you can go to playlist, take your pattern and put it on this, and then make complete arrangement using the brush. For example, you could copy and make this available many times. So here on the pattern, and you need to of course switch into song mode. I hope it's seen. Song mode. Okay, so if you change to song mode, it will be played. Of course, now the Yamaha is playing, because our instrument on this pattern number 1 is called MIDI out. But of course, there's a lot of possibilities in here and the scenarios. For example, you could only use Yamaha as a MIDI keyboard to record some stuff, and then use from MIDI audio, of course, could change again into something else. Flex, for example. It's another synthetic stuff. And now we're not sending MIDI. Now we are not sending MIDI. We are playing in this device, plugins and so on. So the first possible scenario is to record, to use the Yamaha or any other MIDI controller as a keyboard, record some tracks and do most of the work in here. Of course, you can, fix this problem of latency using these AGO drivers. You probably fix it, but this video is not about it. So basically, if you use it, decrease the buffer. There are several tips how to avoid it. However, if you record your chords, melodies, improvisation tracks, you could use it and make an arrangement in here. And don't need to use Yamaha. However, if you want to make it as a part of your live performance, I mean, record something and then send back to instrument, because you want to have more than 2 hands. I mean, some part of playing the chord progression, and then you are adding some solos. So as I shown you before, you could use a MIDI out to send it back to the instrument and set in a mixer the channel that you want to use. So the channel number 1 will be used as a received channel, and then play any voice that you have set and save in registration memory. You can save it in registration memory, and during the live performance you can call it back, load from memory, and then use for playing. So I made this video because you have asked about FL Studio. How could you this looper down? How could you use a looper, FL Studio, as a MIDI looper on an external device? So we have to make it, as you have seen. And I hope you enjoyed this video. And of course, I could do a lot of videos, recorded screen, how to make anything in FL Studio or Cubase. Personally, I've used the FL Studio many years ago. Then Cubase, I have tested it because I would like to have this experience in both of the software. So but if you are interested in a particular this or FL or Cubase, just give me a comment and I could make a series of tutorials about mixing, arranging songs, exporting, and so on. Okay, so I think it's enough for this one video. It's quite long, actually, 20 minutes over. So just give me a comment. What do you think about it? It's convenient or not? I think making this loop in Cubase was more convenient, more easy. However, there's other interesting stuff, like making bits in here are much better, because this sequencer, this channel rack is, its origin is from the bit makers, so making as a sequencer. Some things are easier, some things are harder to do with the software. I personally don't use a computer in my studio. I just want to use my instrument hardware stuff, because I don't want to have another computer device in here. But of course, many producers use it, and they could not forget about computer. They still need to use it for the final arrangement. Of course, I use a computer, I use a DAW, even a free DAW like Audacity. However, most of the tracks I have recorded, there is only a normalization, equalization, basic mix on tracks, and making the final backing out stereo track ready to publish on internet or any other media. So thank you for watching. It was BB Walker. I hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions, I'll always give me a comment. Good luck.